and going into the weekend, the Senate this morning passing a bill that would fund most of the Department of Homeland Security, securing a path that would end the weeks-long shutdown that has left airports in turmoil and travelers fuming. The House may vote on a bill today. Nathan Dean of Bloomberg Intelligence is here with the latest. Nathan is the author of Washington Update, a newsletter that decodes how policy shapes industries, companies, and catalysts that investors need to watch. So, Nathan, is this one investors are going to be watching today? Are we going to get a vote on this in the House?
So I'm not exactly sure you're going to see a vote coming later today. One of two things needs to happen. Now, under the rules of the 119th Congress, they actually can't consider a bill like this in the House all that quickly on Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. So in order to move forward, you essentially need unanimous consent. And we've heard from certain members of the House Freedom Caucus that they are not happy with this bill because it doesn't include anything related to the Save America Act. This is the bill that President Trump has been pushing. So you either need President Trump to come in here and say, look, I want this bill passed today, or you're going to need a significant number of Democrats to go with the Republicans on this, which is not something that they normally do. So if it doesn't pass today, then it will most likely pass Monday. But that means that we're in for another weekend of long lines at the TSA, unfortunately.
What could Trump do without the help of lawmakers? There was on Thursday Trump saying that he could sign an order to pay TSA officers. Would that be a way to kind of sidestep Congress and allow some of the airport chaos to calm down?
Yeah, that was the plan. I mean, obviously, we saw negotiations between the Senate Republicans and Democrats this week have like that ebb and flow, great, not great, et cetera. And President Trump came in and said, look, if the Democrats aren't going to have an agreement here, I'm just going to fund the TSA members myself, most likely using unallocated funds from the One Big Beautiful Bill to do that. Now, there's some legality questions over this. You know, he did this in the past with the military, but, you know, there's a political angle as well, because, like, why would the Democrats want to sue President Trump on something like this? So, you know, it's always in President Trump's hip pocket. But, you know, for members of the legislative branch, they are the ones that control the power of the purse here. And so both sides of the aisle, they don't want presidents coming in here and saying we're going to fund things on our own. They want to do it via the appropriations process. So that's why I think we saw the Senate this morning move forward and fund most of DHS minus ICE and Border Patrol.
I was going to say, what are the details of this bill and its ability to get through the Senate? Because that's obviously something the Democrats are pushing through. Yes, ICE is already funded for some time to come, but removing the extra funding. It seems like the Senate Republicans agreed on that. What does its fate look like in the House?
So, yeah, this bill essentially funds the bulk of the DHS minus ICE. Like you mentioned, it's funded through the One Big Beautiful Bill. Now, the Democrat ask over the last couple of weeks has all been about ICE tactics, not ICE funding. They recognized that the funding was somewhat irrelevant here, just out of their hands. And neither side really got what they wanted, but both sides can go back and say, look, we didn't really bulge on things either. So I think going forward, what will happen is this will go to the House. You will see the House Freedom Caucus raise a little bit of a ruckus, say, look, the Save America Act isn't in here, et cetera. But, you know, there was a political decision made by the White House earlier this week to move forward because this was the point where Americans waiting in long lines said, look, I've had enough. And Republicans took much of the blame of the shutdown last year. I think there was probably some consideration that they could potentially get some of the blame again this year. And they just decided, you know what, well, let's just going to punt on this fight. We'll have other political fights ahead of the midterms.
Nathan, thank you so much for joining us on this Friday. And always check out Nathan's newsletter, Nathan Dean of Bloomberg Intelligence.